My first question for both of you is where it's very easy to sit back and not do anything and just coast and give in to the status quo and stay quiet. I'm not going to rock any boats. What propelled you into taking the step of stepping out and doing something that's I don't know, frowned upon is the polite way to put it. Something that might put you in the crosshairs a little bit. What got you started, both of you, on that?
I think it's personal. I'm trying to teach my sons to have courage. And it's very difficult. I want to make sure that people know that it's not easy to say a lot of the things that have been said this evening. I don't take any joy in it. I was reading a book recently by Ta-Nehisi Coates, Between the World and Me. And there was numerous times where I just sat in a room and just wept because he was unpacking my childhood. And he said things in a way that really spoke to me. And I don't want my sons to grow up scared. And I want them to be able to go further. And so I'm trying to model for them what it means to stand up for what you believe in, regardless of the personal cost. And I'll close with this statement. Jason Soul, I don't know if anybody knows Jason Soul, S-O-L-E. He has a great book called From Prison to PhD, right? He's a professor right now. I mean, he's a former gang member. He's a very good basketball player back in high school. I think he's from Chicago. He's a very, very good man, and he does a lot of work with voter registration. When he goes out and does lots of the talks and different things that he does and the activism that he does, he's also a professor at Hamlin and Metro State. And I don't know if he and I were talking privately or if I read it in a book, but if it is private, I know he won't have a problem with me sharing because it's not specific to him. But folks call his job trying to get him fired. And I guess, that was it enters my mind before I get up and speak, of course, but I can't live scared. Because then that kind of proves the point that we're still in a place where people can't be free to be themselves. And so I really hope that you all ask questions and engage. And I know I rushed through a lot of information. I know it was sensory overload in many regards. But I wanted to share as much as possible so that we could have a rich discussion. It's my joy to engage and to have a conversation with you, whether here or later on. I don't want the conversation to get shut down.
Man, how can I answer that question? In many ways, when I finished my PhD and I started working as a professor, I just wanted to teach my classes and go home. I just wanted to be left alone. But guess what happened? As a black professor with a PhD teaching this kind of content, I had knocks on the door from students wanting to engage in other ways. And then I started to get calls from the community to do various things. And one of the earliest I've been doing education, race equity work, diversity, multiculturalism for 10 years. I've been teaching for 12. I've been doing this kind of work for 10. And I actually did not plan to do the work. I just got called to do it. And I love doing it because it really spoke to who I was as not only as a professor, but as an individual. I mean, my journey from projects to PhD, a lot of us have that story, and I didn't know that the story was worth anything until I began to encounter people out here and to see my students with some of the similar struggles. So for me, I always say if I didn't do this work, I would be something else completely. And I know that there was, I sort of learned about a stigma being attached to professors who were professors of color who did this kind of work, and it reflected too much of who they were. And I think some people shied away from it, but I embraced it. If I didn't do this work, I would be something completely different. So,
yeah. Thank you both. Oh, I think we've got a line over there. Come on up. First question. Yeah, please.
Lisa, I just saw her.
I know. Good evening. My name is Lisa. Thank you very much.
Don't be afraid of the mic, Lisa.
Oops, not at all. Good evening. My name is Lisa. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your for the work that you do. And as you all were talking, I just wanted to, in some ways, do a call out to everybody, but particularly to folks of color, because what we're talking about is we're just talking about that our starting point is our basic humanity. These are our starting points. So let's just start with that notion. Like, our basic humanity is what we're talking about as our starting point, as educators and as people in society. But as a follow-up, actually, from earlier today with Keith, it might be just my piece, but one of the things of this discussion that I think is often missing, whether it's talking about a toolbox, whether it's talking about where are the pressure points about change, is I rarely hear people talking about the places that are training people to be educators and training to be administrators in the perpetuation of the status quo. And I don't know if it's just me, but I bring it up a lot because I feel it both sort of personally and professionally and intellectually when I try and draw out my maps, is that a principal reason why we're in the same place is because we're having the same folks training people to be teachers and training people to be educators, and we're perpetuating that. And I also speak from this as someone who's been trained in education and in all of our teaching degrees from 3 different systems here in Minnesota. And so I don't know if it's just my little deal, but I feel like with something that's someplace that we have to talk about, I talk about with parents, I talk about with whoever, is that where's the pressure on our colleges? And I work at the U, and I am a graduate of the College of Education and Human Development there. And I feel like we need to be putting some big-ass pressure from all over the places, from parents and from educators and from schools. Why are schools not hammering in the K through 12 saying, how is it that we're doing this again?
All right. Who would like to take that, respond?
So, Lisa, that's a good question. Again, it's one of these instances where, as Department of African American and African Studies, we are on the humanities side, and when we interdisciplinary, so we do both social science and the humanities. But again, it's one of those, we are just in our space and we get a knock on the door. And the knock is from the school district saying that, can you help us create ethnic studies curriculum? Now, why is it that they didn't go to the College of Education and Human Development? They didn't go over there for a reason, right? There's a particular reason why that came to my department, came to Chicano Latino Studies Department to get that curriculum, Asian American Studies to get that curriculum, American Indian. So there's a reason that they come to the ethnic studies to get the content. It must be something about what CEHD and similar colleges are not producing. They're not producing people who are doing this critical work. And I always wondered, as someone who's just a trained historian, that isn't this somebody else's terrain? And I just assume that the spaces are creating the students and the in-service teachers, the pre-service teachers, to go out to not only teach students of color, teach all students, but can create this kind of content. And the answer consistently is no, they are not equipped to do it. So then the void is filled by other kinds of intellectual positions and departments. And so I think you're right. There is a teacher of colors movement that's taking place in the state. I think 95% of the teachers in the state are white. And there are folks who are organizing to sort of change that reality. And I'm not directly part of that, but I actually do support many of the initiatives that are coming out of that.
Thank you.
Hi, Professor Mays. This question is actually for both of you, and I was talking, so you might have actually kind of answered it already, but I wanted to know, you talked earlier about people of color being able to really speak to the experience of students of color and being able to enrich the educational experience, and you referenced with the black classroom, which I find funny because I feel like that was taken from a season of The Wire by chance. But but regardless, my point is that I wanted to know, what do you think is the importance of white staff who are the teachers understanding the cultural experiences of the students to be able to make the content culturally relevant? So moving past cultural competency, even beyond a cultural proficiency, to be actually understanding the lived experiences, to be able to implement that, so you're not really talking about, we're gonna look at literature from this author, but let's talk about how your communities are being impacted and how that actually relates to numbers within math or literacy. So what are some examples or suggestions you might have for white teachers who are teaching students of color? How are they going to become culturally I don't even know the right word to use, you know what I mean, to be able to really impact the educational experience.
Thank you for the question. Most of the schools that I've been in, most of the P-12 schools that I've been in, they have a limited amount of professional development time that they commit to, and I don't know if there's any external rules around those things, but those seem to be the most rich times. They can also use time outside of class when they interact with other staff members to discuss a lot of those things. I guess a part of the challenge, and that's a part of white advantage, is that they don't have to. And so, you know, many people don't view it as important to unpack. They don't find it, they don't think the answers are there. So, I mean, going back to the previous person who asked the question, I just recently started MCTC last summer. Before that, for the last 7 years, I was teaching in the education department at Bethel University. And after about year 2 or 3, I just kind of stopped talking to faculty and staff about these things. They didn't want to get into it. It's not important. And so, as I was listening to Dr. Mays' presentation, I could easily identify, okay, a solution. Okay, it's challenging me to be better, but if the solutions are there, why wouldn't I look to it? And so just many individuals don't view what we're challenging to do as important. It's not relevant to the curriculum or what's already been set up in regards to some of the traditional thinkers in regards to preparing educators, which is very challenging.
I gotta want to know you. You know, I always just take it back to that. Black and brown people oftentimes are unknowable to whites, and I have to want to know you. The classrooms are becoming more diverse in other kinds of ways. There's a diverse blackness taking place, not only the P-12 level, but in the college level as well. So you got East Africans and West Africans. Now, as an African American, they may be black, but I may not necessarily know their story. But as an educator, I need to know it in order to teach more effectively. And I think that there is something to be said about that. I think Dr. Brooks is right. I mean, in many ways, there is a sense of people not being part of, they're winners or losers. They are either winners or losers. We don't understand them as being part of the larger body of the community of people that we understand as Americans, right? They're not insiders. They are perpetual outsiders. So thus, I don't need to know who they are. I don't need to know their story. It's that unknowability that keeps white educators from really grappling with the question of, do I need to know you? I want to maintain that distance, because all I need to do is just give you the content, and I'm done. But it's more to education than that. It is about a relationship. But Dr. Brooks is right. The starting point is the desire to want to have the relationship and to get to know that person on the other side of the desk.
Thank you both. Go ahead. Do we want to jump here? No, you're good? Okay. All right, go ahead.
I'm not from Minnesota. I don't wait in line.
That's cool.
I was curious for each of you if you could speak a little bit about your thoughts on the role of charter schools, particularly in the Twin Cities. That seems to be an issue in relation to culturally responsive teaching, and where do you see that potential divide or gradient or spectrum of being culturally responsive versus moving to maybe charter schools that are very based on or rooted in a very exclusive cultural context or model?
I mean, charter schools, I don't have a position on it. I think choice is fine. I think choice could be about innovation. They talk about some of these schools are not performing well, but if they are affecting some students, if some students are benefiting from the whole process, then I don't have a problem with it. I do think that it's a knee-jerk way that we understand the failure of public education. So we offer all of this choice, in the system, and we think that that's going to do it. But again, the underlying factor that I see is what happens in the classroom between teacher and student. So you can offer all the choice you want to. I think the numbers are, I think there are about 7% of the schools in the state are charter schools. Or it's a drop in the bucket. It will help some students. Some students may not benefit from that. But I think it's just a small aspect of what we need to do. We need a complete overhaul of the system. And if choice is helping to provide a quality education for some students, then that's fine, because one student benefiting from a choice program, any choice program, be it a charter school or just a program, that's fine. But I think we do need to think about overhauling the system. We need a revolution in the system.
Yes, I have similar thoughts, because there's lots of phenomenal educators in traditional public schools, Minneapolis or any other school district. There's plenty of them. And then at the same time, what I find as a major difference between many of the charter schools that are doing very well, specifically with underrepresented or students of color, they just have a little bit more autonomy to kind of do more things. And like, I know there's a group of folks from Hiawatha. I have great respect from Hiawatha Academy schools and what they do. And my wife and I were looking at them a few years ago about putting our own son there. So whether it's public, what'd you say?
The Harvest Network is also another.
Yeah, the Harvest Network of schools does have, they add a lot of value as well in terms of what they do. And so there's lots of Friendship Academy of the Arts. I can name off lots of different schools. Hope Academy, which is a private school. So there's, I'm a huge supporter as well of choice in regards to fit. So it's less about, charters, if this is what is being insinuated. I don't think charters are like infringing on anybody or taking anybody's students, if they're doing well, I'm all for it. Yeah, or regardless of the population.
Good evening. Given the fact that urgency is sort of like pervading our entire context, how can we, assure school administrators that like engagement, inspiration, relationships are like the places to start, right? So if we have like this big gap on our backs, I'm like, well, look at the numbers, look at the test scores, look at the rates. And then I come in and say, well, let's build a relationship, let's connect. Like, how do I prove that worth?
I think it's disconcerting because it shifts the focus from the student to the teacher. And that's why it's not done. It's not recognized. And it's soft, too. It's a soft measure. So the numerics are hard measures. We love to look at the numbers. We think that we can follow the trends. But how do you follow whether I really have a relationship with you or not? And then it's my responsibility as the adult in the system to develop the relationship, right? The onus is on me. So, and then you infuse race into that, then then you could create even more impediments in terms of having that be a central focus of school reform. But I just think that we have to insist on it, and more people have to say it. And once more people say it, then I think it will take hold. It's going to take a long time. But I believe that in many ways, if we believe that we can raise graduation rates and attendance rates and GPAs by focusing on standardized tests and focusing on the 4 core areas and math and science, and all we have to do is go into the classroom and teach these things to students. And if they're not receiving the information, and they're not really grappling with it, then the question becomes, can we do something else in addition to that? And I think the answer to that is yes, but I think again it takes the focus away from the student and puts it on the teacher, and I think a lot of teachers are uncomfortable with that.
I'm a huge supporter in providing individuals with the resources that they need to be successful. At the same time, I have to be in a position to receive. And what I find is that many educators, and I don't know if it's unique to education, but that's been my world for the last 20-something odd years is that many educators are just, quite frankly, arrogant. And they don't want to be challenged on what's going on in their classroom. Me, when I taught at Bethel or when I was in P12 settings, I never had a problem with people coming to observe me or give me feedback because I thought that it was coming from a place of care about the student, that it wasn't about me, but it was about the student. So I never had a problem listening. I do need to be supported and given the resources to be successful. I think that we also need quality leadership, and I also think that we need to shift some of the policies. Because what I find is that people, in terms of at least Minnesota culture, is that people don't like to be confrontational, although there's a healthy way to be confrontational and just focus on, the issue. So when I look at evaluation, I like to look at quantitative as well as qualitative, right? I want to know the narrative as well as looking at the numbers because I need to understand. We need to be in an agreement about what the numbers mean as well. So when I was at Sandburg Middle School before it closed out in Robbinsdale, there was a consistent pattern of teachers who kicked kids out of their class. So we all know who the teachers were who had all these consistent referrals and, things for suspensions or whatever it may be. There was a pattern there, but we didn't have quality leadership to address it and to support it. And so something that hopefully we can do at the college level that I'm looking at, and I know I'm going to get pushback on it, because they're so comfortable, it's faculty evaluation. It has to be a part of the evaluation. And again, if it's truly about the student, I don't have a problem with anybody coming into my class because I want to be effective in working with them. So right, folks just can't say, hey, let me build a good relationship. You need to get some support around what that means and what that looks like for the different populations that we have. I can't go in there with the same mind and the same practice and expect to get different results without some accountability with that. But many of our school districts and higher ed specifically, especially when we start, I know folks don't like talking about tenure, but my thing is I don't need it. I'm good at I'm excellent. I feel, and that's not arrogant, I'm saying, hey, I went into education because I believe that I was the best that education had to offer. I believe that if I'm in front of those kids, it's going to be all right. You can trust your kids with me. And so my thing is, if educators don't feel as though they're the best that the field of education has to offer, well then, hey, they're a part of the reason why my wife and I drive 20 miles every day to bring our kids to a school where we believe that there's some educators there that believe that they're the best to offer for our kids. And so that's really what it comes down to. And we start talking about the pedagogy of confidence, many educators just do not believe in themselves. And I don't get that. I'm very confident, one, because of the foundation that I've had, the training that I've had, and because my love for kids makes me want to improve on a daily basis. And I give them a clean slate every day, and I ask them to give me a clean slate every day in order to do better and improve.
Yeah. Yes. We will take, I think, one more question. I know. But we'll take one more question. Yeah, it's about that time.
Thanks for squeezing me in. I spent this afternoon talking to 3 black students at my school who had been removed from the classroom for their behavior about their experience having mostly white teachers in education. And I talked to them, they're all college bound. They are some of the brightest kids that I've ever encountered. And talk to them about the fact that I would love for you to be a teacher. I would love for you to come back here and be the principal at the school. And they kind of said, well, if I can get some degrees, I'm not going to be a teacher. And I struggled with what to tell them as far as, do you want to come back and work for this system that really needs a revolutionary overhaul that might push you down and pay you unfairly and, discriminate against you just so that you can be in front of kids that are like you, when really you have the opportunity and the mind and the social capital and the skills to be somebody that makes a ton of money doing something that might not benefit directly some black kids, but you might be able to pay for all your cousins' college educations. You know what I mean? So what would you say to those students today?
Can I start that? Thank you. That's a good question, huh? It's a real good question. And you said a lot of things there. I hope I recall everything because a lot of thoughts surfaced for me. One, I'm from a family of educators. So it's natural for me to be in this field. And, my father was a college professor for about 40 years. and a college counselor. My brother works at Santa Monica College in the TRIO department right now. So it was natural for me. So what I try to shift the conversation in spite of those realities to calling. Like, I feel called to do what I'm doing. I feel like this is a part of what I was born to do. So regardless of a dollar bill, this is what I'm always going to be in the field of education. Of course, what grade level are you referring to? 9th graders. Oh, okay, so these are high schoolers, and so I totally get that. And lots of the things that, we think about at that age are very superficial and surface in many regards. This is a good point. Why would I go back to a place of hurt? Why would I go back to a place where I was disregarded or I was invisible or where I was shut down? Why would I? I get that. So again, that's why me and Dr. Keefe get along so well. We're both historians, and when I did some research on pre-post Brown versus Board, I found some alarming things. But one of the things that blew me away is that there were about 80,000 African-American teachers prior to Brown versus Board. And within 5 years afterwards, there was about half of that. So again, that's why I'm saying don't be afraid of the term white supremacy. Understand that. Because individuals said, and I don't use this term flippantly, but the individuals who were in leadership said, okay, you niggas want integration, fine, but here's what it's going to look like. And so they shut down most of the schools where you had the African-American teachers. I want you to understand how demonic and how diabolical this is. They removed the black male principals and sometimes made them be janitors at some of the white schools, or they put them in the district office so that the kids of color couldn't see themselves in leadership. That's the devil. That's crazy. That's crazy. So my point is that generation told my generation, don't go into education, right? Get your degrees, go into a field where you can, like you said, make some money and go help numerous of other people. So I can't be mad at that. So also, and maybe we can get an applause here, I don't think educators get paid enough. What? What you say? Say something to me, holla at me. Educated teachers, my goodness. If y'all ever get a chance to do some research on many fields that get paid way more than, just entry level, what can you do with $40,000 and $45,000 a year? Especially if I just got, a $100,000 education and I got these student loans I got to pay back? And so I'm going to go to a certain community where I can, take 5 years and get some of them off. But, hey, if I'm, culturally incompetent, if I'm socially and racially unconscious, the deuces, as soon as I get a chance to go to a suburban school where I think it's easier and don't have to deal with those kids, I'm out. That's how many people think. And so those are some of so many white people are incentivized to go out of the urban settings and teach in those type of spaces. So again, policy, practice, there's a pattern, and then the prestige of education is not held in high regard in the United States as it is in many other countries. I highly respect educators. Probably most of us do, but not many individuals look at being an educator or a teacher as something notable. But also, we have a part to play in that. Now, I don't expect everybody to be in a suit and tie and have this type of swag, but my point is, I walk the halls at MCTC, like, hey, I'm here. What you need? How you doing? And so somebody thought I was the president. I was like, no, I'm not the president of the college. I just work here. So I guess my point is I try to increase the prestige of the education profession by how I present myself. I never walked in a P12 setting with flip-flops and shorts and a Hawaiian shirt. And so kids look at that and say, why would I want to be a teacher? They don't even look like they want to be here. They don't bring their A game, so why would I want to be in that type of profession?
And I'll just add to what Dr. Brooks says, that it feels good to serve. It really does. And I roll out of bed in the morning, my wife turn around and look at me like, you love your job, right? I'm like, yeah, I do. She said, I hate you. And I hate my job. My wife is an attorney, and I hate my job. Because I didn't realize this, that I do get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I look forward to going to work. And I would say to those students is that it is. I think Dr. Brooks is right. As a 9th grader, those are flippant remarks. And they don't realize that if they got in a position to serve and become educators or do something else of service that they could get paid for, they will feel differently about it. And it's good to actually give back in that way. And one of the things that I love about being an educator is that I can impact lives in a way that I never thought. Even when I was in school, I didn't go into education to serve. I went into education because, I just wanted to be a researcher and to be a teacher, but I didn't think about the service component of my work, inside the classroom and outside of the classroom. It's amazing the kind of lives, the many lives that I can affect and the kind of impact that I can have. Could not see that coming. And I think that if we articulate that to young people, which I try to do all the time, I try to get so many people to get masters and PhDs and say that, listen, it's important for you to actually give back, and your life will mean something if you really consider education as a career path.
All right. I just wanted to close and say thank you for letting me be myself. And, because again, once I said, these things aren't easy to communicate. I hope that you view me as a partner in this work. I want to work with you, right? Dr. Keefe and I were not blame, shame, guilting anybody. We were stating some factual things. So I hope folks, didn't get wrapped up in their feelings, but really think about the things that were presented. And I'm grateful that my beautiful bride and my boys were here to also to see, what Daddy does on a daily basis as well. Doc, you wanted to say some closing?
I want to echo those same remarks and say that, any opportunity I get to work with teachers or work with school districts, and I'm grateful for it, because I think that I do have something to offer, and I want to be a partner with you in this endeavor. And the change is not easy. It's going to take some time, and I think that we can do it. I believe that we can definitely make this change in 2016 and beyond. So thank you guys for coming out and listening. Thank you.